Welcome back to this Friday edition of Cameras, Crowns, and Chaos. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Lindsay King, and I have missed you guys over these last few weeks or the last few months. If you didn't know, we moved the podcast from Fridays to Tuesdays so that we could do a Bachelor recap. And I was doing that with my brother Nash. It was so super fun. But if you're a Bachelor Nation member, then you'll know that The Bachelor is done for this particular season. Now we're back to Fridays and we're going right back into all the crazy topics that we were discussing before. So today we're going to talk about red flags and the red flags that are specific to getting into the modeling industry and specifically picking the photographer that you're going to get to help you out. Now, there are so many things that I could tell you on how to pick the right photographer, but sometimes I think it's just as important to hear the red flags and to hear why not to pick someone. And because I'm a member of different modeling communities on social media and on the internet, I see things sometimes that just really concern me. They rub me the wrong way as someone who's been in this industry for a very long time, because I'm looking at models who are going to specific photographers, and I know that these photographers are not going to build them the portfolio or the comp card that they need to actually submit to an agency. Unfortunately, not all photographers are there for you. Some photographers are there for themselves. Some photographers have ulterior motives, which is extremely scary, and it is pretty rare, but it is a real thing. So today's video is more about just kind of watching out for those red flags and making sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation with someone who really isn't there for the same purpose that you are. So number one, if you find this photographer, this potential lead on social media, check their website, check their social media. What is it that they're posting? Do you look at their portfolio and immediately get like a pit in your stomach? Do you look at that portfolio and feel excited, feel like, oh my gosh, that could be me. I would love these photos to be me. You really need to go with your gut. That's first and foremost. And obviously, that's in every single aspect of life. Number two, when you're looking at that portfolio, what is that portfolio full of? Are you seeing the kind of images that you think would go into a modeling portfolio? Are you seeing headshots? Are you seeing full body shots? Are you seeing things that look editorial, beauty, high fashion? Or, and here's the real thing that I really want you to watch out for, are you seeing mostly lingerie? Are you seeing mostly girls who are maybe dressed, but like super scantily clad? Are you seeing girls whose hair and makeup don't really look like they mattered all that much to the photographer? Are you seeing girls who are in cute outfits, but poses that are really kind of inappropriate and things that your grandma would not want to show around on Sunday at church because they're like a little too much up in your business, if you know what I'm saying? So, for example, recently I was scrolling Facebook and I am in one particular group, and someone had shared her own set of photos in this group. She's a model and she's got her hair done and she had some, I think it was supposed to be kind of like a high fashion makeup look going on. And then she had on whatever outfit. The thing is, I don't really remember a whole lot about the outfit and a whole lot about the makeup. I remember thinking that the outfit was not really what she needed, but it wasn't, bad. It wasn't scantily clad, but the posing was atrocious. And I don't mean that this was a lack of experience with the posing. I mean that the fact that somebody took these pictures and probably directed her on how to pose, it made me sick to my stomach. The majority of this model's poses had her legs spread. I can tell you right now, your legs are not going to be spread in your modeling portfolio. They're just not. Now, I'm not talking about a standing up, hands on your hips, feet wide apart on the ground. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about putting one foot on the ground and one foot up on top of something else so that I could see up your skirt. I'm talking about sitting on your butt and spreading your legs all the way apart so that I could see inside of your skirt. That's not professional modeling. Those are not pictures that you'd ever want in your modeling portfolio. And I couldn't help but look at the shoot and wonder if this was what the model wanted or if this is what the director or the photographer directed her to do. In my experience, I've noticed that most girls who are coming in to start their modeling experience, they don't have experience. So They're relying on me, and it is my job to guide them. Unfortunately, not everybody's going to guide you in the proper direction. Now, sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge on the photographer's part. But when I look at a set of pictures like this, and we'll say there were 8 or 10 photos, when I look at a set of pictures like that, I don't look at that and think, oh, that photographer is just not well versed. I look at that and I think, this looks like a creepy old pervert who's photographing these girls, or this girl, not knowing, she's not knowing any better. And he's definitely not photographing for her modeling portfolio, because if he legitimately was photographing for her modeling portfolio, he would know that something like those photos would never fly. Now, that photographer in particular, I've seen plenty of their work. And the thing is, the majority of that photographer's work is very much like this one particular post. A lot of the poses are very overtly sexual. A lot of the poses are definitely indecent. And here's the thing, if we're talking about boudoir, that's a whole different thing here. These are not boudoir pictures. These young women are not going to him for a boudoir session. They're going to this photographer as models. They want to be models. If you look at their Facebook pages and or their Instagram accounts and you see their other photos, you will see that they are touted up as models. But because they don't know any better, and he's got a lot of years of experience in this industry, they're going to him, they're putting their trust in him, and then he's turning around and he's giving these photos. Now, one thing that I will say about this particular photographer is that I've seen the repeat customers coming back to him. So clearly, either A, these girls don't know any better, they don't know that that's not what legitimate modeling is, or B, they don't care. That's not really what they're there for. But I'm going on this video with the assumption that some of these girls, at least that go to him, actually are trying to be legitimate models. And I know that because I've gone and I've checked out their social media before, and they have model pages, and some of their photos on their model pages are decent. But this is where it's really, really important to check someone's online portfolio to make sure it really does align with what you're looking for. Also, in addition to posing, and is the posing appropriate? Does it make sense? Is the hair and makeup being well looked after? And when I say that, I mean, if I have a client who, has hair across her face in a way that we don't want it, I'm going to fix it. She needs to look put together for her portfolio. If my client comes in and her makeup is a hot mess, and I'll tell you the truth, there have been a few times I've had clients come in where their makeup has been really rough, like really, really rough. And either it's because they're coming and they're seeing me after a day of work, so we have to spruce it up, or it's because they don't know how to do their makeup for these kinds of photos. So in those scenarios, I have a whole kit of makeup in the studio, and I will just whip them up and whip them into shape. And I might not be the best person at makeup, but I can go ahead, I can try my hand at it, clean them up. That's my job. My job is to make sure that you leave looking your best, or that your photos represent you looking your best, because you're using your image to book jobs. That's the whole goal of getting into the modeling industry. When I'm looking at a photographer who consistently, clearly does not care what someone's hair and makeup looks like, that's a huge red flag to me. Huge, huge, huge. Another thing that's a red flag in terms of visual is going to be their lighting. It's going to be their editing. It's going to be the attention that they pay to the set. Can you see, light stands in the set? Now, if you've ever shot with me before, indoors or out, you'll know that a lot of times you'll see a light stand in there. And what do I always tell you? I always say, hey, don't worry about the light stands in your photos. I'm going to edit that out. But I would never leave that in there. Like, that's just sloppy, because I care about your photos and because that shouldn't be in there. So that's another thing to keep in mind. I've already lost track of where we were. I was kind of numbering these, but now I'm just going off the top of my head. So here's another one. Do they tell you that you can't bring a chaperone? This is a huge, huge red flag. Huge. Okay. So if you go to a photo shoot, always, always, always ask the photographer. And this isn't necessarily about getting permission. This is to see where they stand on it and what they say, because this is going to give you a really good sense of, should I or should I not do this? The question you're going to ask is, do you mind if I bring along a chaperone? Don't say, do you mind if I bring along a friend? Because I'll tell you, it does kind of put a photographer, a little off balance when you say a friend. I'd rather you say, like, do you mind if I bring my sister? Or you could say, do you mind if I bring my friend? It would make me feel more comfortable to have someone accompany me. She'll be completely professional. She'll stay quiet in the background. If you want to say, can I bring a friend? Say it that way. Then that way the photographer knows that they're not going to have to, kind of compete with your friend. Because I'll tell you, I've had people come along on sessions before, and the entire time, all they're doing is taking pictures over my shoulder. Now, I don't really care if someone's taking pictures over my shoulder or behind the scenes because I know you're buying my pictures. That's not my issue. My issue is I move around a lot. And when I back up, the last thing that I need to do is trip over your friend who is right behind me. And it has absolutely happened before. So just make sure that your photographer knows that, obviously your friend's coming along. This is more just for safety. It makes you feel more protected. And, and it is what it is. If a photographer tells you no, don't go. Do not go. Period. Point blank. I have nothing else to say about that. I'm not saying that you can't go to a photo shoot without someone. I'm just saying if a photographer expressly tells you no, and this is a time that we're talking about when you're building your modeling portfolio. We're not talking about you going on some big job to Banana Republic. Now, if you're signed with an agency and you get a campaign that you're shooting and you're getting paid to shoot it, I think most of the time the rule is going to be like, no, you probably shouldn't have anyone on set with you. That doesn't mean that you can't take someone there. They can't wait in the car. They might be able to wait in the lobby or an outside waiting area. But typically a professional photographer who is paying you, or this campaign's paying you for your time, they're not going to want, extra people in the room, in the production, because at that point, time is money. So that's a different scenario though. We're just talking about right now when you're building your modeling portfolio. Does the photographer have any reference photos that they can show you that are theirs, or are they using stolen photos? Are they going to Pinterest and saying, these are the ways that I want to photograph you. These are the photos. These are my samples. If they don't have anything to show you and they don't have anything else to back themselves up, that might be another red flag. If a photographer Here's another really important one. If a photographer pressures you to shoot nude or implied nudity, say no. You don't have to do that. That's a massive red flag. And usually that will come up in a conversation prior to the shoot. Not always. Sometimes some photographers will spring it on you during the shoot. Either way, though, you make it very clear what you're going there for. I'm going to shoot several outfits. This is what I need. I need, a couple full body shots. I want to change up my hair and makeup. I need a headshot. Be very clear with the photographer. You let them know what it is that you're going for. And the minute that they ask you if you want to do anything nude or implied nude, I would probably just end that conversation right there, and I would not entertain it anymore. If they're willing to ask you in the messages and you say no, they're probably going to be asking you in person as well. So that's a big red flag for me. Another one that I want to tell you about is, don't let a photographer gaslight you or manipulate you by saying things like, all professional models do this, or trust me, you're never going to make it to the big time if you don't do blah, 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 blah. And usually what they're trying to get you to do, again, is shoot nude or shoot implied nudes. So doesn't matter what they say. It only matters where you stand and how you feel. And if you genuinely want to build a modeling portfolio and you're not specifically looking to get into lingerie or fitness modeling, then you don't need to do anything like that. Okay, I've rambled a lot, and this was supposed to be a short podcast today. So here's my final thing for you. Do they have references that they can provide you? Now, I'll tell you, I don't know if I've ever had anyone ask me for references in my business, but I do think that a big part of that is because most of my business is built on word of mouth. I photographed Susie Q's daughter, and then she told Sally, and then Sally brought me her daughter, and then Sally told Sarah, and Sarah brought me her daughter. That's how my business typically works. So I don't usually, have to provide a reference, or I don't think I've ever had to provide a reference because, like I said, word of mouth, people already know, they're already being referred. But if this is a photographer that reaches out to you on social media, like if you happen to be in a modeling group or something like that, if they reach out to you on social media, or they find you and you can't really find a whole lot about them on social media, they don't have anywhere listed that they're a professional photographer, they don't have a website, then if they ask you and you're maybe entertaining the idea of working with them, then I would highly recommend that you ask them for references. Super, super, super important. And if they can't provide any, you just say, okay, no problem. Thank you so much. We might be able to work together in the future, but right now I'm looking for something a little bit different. It's that simple. So, the whole point of today's podcast is to keep you safe. The point of today's podcast is to remind you that control is within your hands. It's to remind you to look for the red flags. Now, maybe I'll do another episode where I say, okay, now these are the things that you want to look for in a photographer. This is the kind of photographer that you want to go to. I mean, you could just kind of take everything that I said today and then like reverse it. But I also know that there's a lot of things that I did not touch on today that are not necessarily good things, but they're not like bad things that would make me nervous for you to go to a photographer. Today, I'm talking about all the things that make me very nervous and would make me say no for my own daughter or for my own self. So those are my thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, it was really, really nice to come back today on this beautiful Friday. I hope you guys have the best weekend. Make sure that you are subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. Where else are we? Spotify, YouTube. I think I'm missing one. I'm not even sure at this point. Anyways, make sure that you catch me, you subscribe, you download, and you share with your friends. I appreciate you all so very much. Signing out on this beautiful Friday. Bye.